You've come to the right place. If you're a course creator looking to build more impact, income, and freedom, LMScast is the #1 podcast for course creators just like you. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of the most powerful tool for building, selling, and protecting engaging online courses called LifterLMS. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMScast. My name is Chris Badgett and I'm joined by a special guest, Terri Tutich from BeyondTheOffice.com. Welcome to the show, Terri.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great.
This is going to be an episode about WordPress and how to level up and get the most out of it. Terri's been doing lots of different things inside the world of WordPress, but when somebody meets you, how do you describe what it is you do with WordPress?
I usually use a terrible phrase that's sort of like I help people with their website stuff. I kind of hate the word stuff, but I haven't found a better word for it because it's a little of everything. I do building sites from scratch, fixing sites, maintaining sites, teaching them how to use their sites. And I tend to get a lot of people that started with, I did a thing and now it's broken. Can you help me fix it? So it's a little of everything. It's website stuff. It's all of the things.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's like if you are in the WordPress world, sometimes it's easy to get inside the bubble. But like when I go out and about, if somebody asks me what I do, I'm like, oh, I have a software company. I help people build online schools. If I'm talking to somebody who's inside WordPress already, I'll say I have a learning management system plugin for WordPress. But it's very context specific. And that's one of the challenges with WordPress is it's infinitely extendable, and you know, people have all these different configurations. And that's why you put together a website owner's guide. You can check that out at BeyondTheOffice.com. And I love where you're kind of focusing in with, which is beyond the beginner thing. You got the site up. Now what?
Right.
What are some of the things that people can be working on to level up their WordPress website after the launch?
Make a backup. That is one of the things that I like to say. I'm a little bit neurotic about backups. That's the thing that I've done for, I've done backup talks for some WordCamps. We had a mega meetup here in Pittsburgh. I did a lightning talk on it. I have seen so many problems that take forever to fix. It could easily have been resolved if they just had a backup. So once you get the site exactly the way you want it, or even if it's close to the way you want it and you're working on it and you want to try new things, right? Like make a backup, because sometimes it's hitting the wrong button and you delete things. I've seen people delete the user that had all of the content associated with it and didn't reassign that content to somebody else, and they deleted basically all of the content from their site. With a backup, that takes 20 minutes to fix. Otherwise, it takes an hour of me digging around in a database trying to figure out how to get the stuff back out. Just make a backup. It's the first thing.
What do you recommend for backups? Like in terms of, there's different ways to do it. There's the hosting level backup. Like if you have a higher end hosting, they do it automatically. There's backup plugins. What do you recommend for people?
I've been using Backup Buddy for years. I know it's a premium plugin. I know there's no free version of it, but it's one of those things that once I tried it, there was no going back to anything else, because for me, it works better. It works more seamlessly than everything else. I don't trust only relying on the hosting backups, because I've seen times where those have failed. And in fact, at our mega meetup, I was talking about this, and we had somebody there who representing a local hosting company, and he even agreed with me. He's like, the hosting backups are basically there for the hosting company's protection, not necessarily for yours. They're only keeping them for maybe 5 to 7 days, right? A lot of times you're not looking at your website every day. You're not searching for your website on Google. There are times that problems go missed for longer than the 5 to 7 days. If you're only relying on that, that's not a good backup solution. Plus, if the hosting crashes, you have no backup anyway. So yeah, I would do, if you're not using Backup Buddy, something that's at least automated, right? That doesn't require you going in and remembering to push the button every Friday to make the backup and send it somewhere else. Something that can be automated, something that can be scheduled. or use a, maintenance service and have somebody do it for you just to make sure it gets done.
I love that. And if you want to see a live demo of Backup Buddy, we did a webinar training with so somebody from iThemes. If you go to the bottom of LifterLMS.com and click on webinars, you'll find it. Maintenance. You offer maintenance services for WordPress websites.
I do.
Let me just back up and say an issue we talk about on this podcast with almost every guest is what I call the 5 hats problem, which in order to have a successful online course or training-based membership website, you have to be 5 people at once. You have to wear these 5 hats, which is almost an impossible task.
Right.
You have to be, number 1, an expert in something. Number 2, you have to be able to teach. You have to be a teacher. Number 3, you have to be able to build community both before the sale and after the sale. Number 4, you have to be an instructional designer, which means you need to take your expertise and actually organize it into a useful, consumable way. That's what you have to have that skill. And number 5 is you have to be an entrepreneur, and there's and also a technologist. So I think I added an extra hat there. It might have been the instructional designer because that goes inside of teaching. But you have to be an entrepreneur, and then you have to be a technologist. Unfortunately, I see a lot of course creators, coaches, trainers fail because they get too into the weeds on the technology when it's really not their strong suit. And they could have saved themselves by getting just a little bit of help, or building somebody on their team or getting a maintenance thing so they're not solely responsible for the website and they're not an expert in WordPress. What do you offer for maintenance, and how do you support website owners with your maintenance?
So the very basic level that I have literally is just backups and updates. It's like the bare minimum of what I consider taking care of your website. That's like if you had a car, right? Like that's the equivalent of like remembering to get your oil changed when you need to. It's like it's really the lowest bar. But it's backups, it's updates. And then with that, I'm testing the updates. So when I apply them, I make sure it doesn't blow up the website. And if it does, we figure out why so it can be fixed. Trying to make sure that it's speed optimized and that it's secure and stuff like that, so that you're not going to get hacked, so that we don't have to fix your website every other week. So that's and that's all stuff I said, that's just the bare minimum. And then I have we'll say the next level, I also offer some time to work on the site each month. So, some people are really comfortable putting in their own blog posts, but they don't want to have to deal with backups and whether or not it's secure and stuff like that. Some people want to just be able to email them. Here's my blog post, put the pictures up, make me my Pinterest graphic for me, do that kind of stuff. And so I'll do that. And then I have the upper plan that includes hosting, that includes security, that includes working on it. We'll do brainstorming sessions once a month. We'll talk about ways that we can go further with it, kind of more proactive, not like business partnering, but I work with a lot of different businesses. I've seen lots of different things that work. I can give people ideas for what they might want to try to implement in their business to help achieve their goals.
And that's an advanced tip I just want to throw out there. If you are building WordPress sites for clients, your clients are not in the witness protection program. So when you talk to them, if you put that in your package and you're the expert, and if you see an opportunity to improve their website or fix something that they may not even realize, it generates work for you. And you become a trusted advisor, not just a vendor. So that's cool. I love seeing that you put that brainstorming feature into your maintenance plan. I think that's really smart. You're also like a trainer, so we're actually going to shift for a second outside of the technology hat and talk about workshops that you've run in person where you're teaching website stuff. There's a couple things I wanted to just kind of couch before we get into that. Number 1 is sometimes course creators and membership site people, trainers, they get a little isolated and insulated and are creating from home with no feedback loop, no live people around. They're trying to automate everything down to the 4-hour work week. And they miss the opportunity of getting out in front of real people and even sharing their love or their passion with their local community. They get into this online business of a global multinational startup thing. And but there's just doing something locally can be pretty powerful. And then there's also the concept of blended learning, where maybe you teach some stuff online and then you have some stuff in person. That's a cool concept. And there's something really making waves called the flipped classroom, where essentially you teach online and then you show the in-person thing. You're more or less just there to support and coach and find out where people got stuck and just facilitate. So you're kind of flipping the classroom model and the homework model upside down. Tell us about your workshop experience. I love that you get out into the world and do that. Why
Right.
do you do it? How does it work? What have you taught?
Um,
And
so
sorry,
I
that
had
was
to,
like 5 questions at once. I apologize.
that's okay. That's okay. I have kids, so I'm used to answering 5 questions at once. It just kind of goes with it. Um, so a couple of years ago, I was talking to somebody who worked with the library, and I mentioned that I do, training and stuff, and they were basically like, "Ooh, I think we have, we have people through the nonprofit center that the library runs that would be interested in this." Because a lot of nonprofits use WordPress sites, and it tends to be that the management of the website falls on the desk of the person who seems to be the most techie, even if they know nothing about websites, right? Like, ooh, you know how to work your smartphone. Here, now you get to do the website. So these are people that don't have a background in anything related to websites. Maybe there's the marketing person or things like that. So they can write great content, getting it onto the site, maintaining the site, knowing what the different error messages mean, like all of that stuff is totally over their head. So I did a workshop a couple of years ago, started with one for the nonprofit center, and we had people from maybe like 20 different nonprofits there. And it was a very unstructured workshop. It was like a 3-hour workshop. I did some beginning explanation on the different components of the website just for some general understanding. I had some slides ready, but we didn't really use them. I basically just jumped into my sandbox site and started showing them different things, because I've always believed, especially with websites, right? Like, a lot of people just learn better by watching it. So I showed them how to do different stuff. And then I just, I took questions. So it was, well, on our site, we have this theme and we have Divi, and how do I do this? And we are hosted with these people. What do I do with, how do I do X, Y, Z? Because you're dealing with, we talked about how WordPress has so many different variables. So you're dealing with people that have, nobody there is using the same theme as somebody else, and everything is different. I can't really do a structured workshop. And now, if I was doing a workshop on, how to build a course using LifterLMS, sure, that can be way more structured because it's very specific. But this was just, how to help maintain your website for nonprofits, and so there's a lot of interest in it, but so many different variables, so you can't really super structure those. I actually really enjoy those because I like to see the variety of questions that people are getting, the different tech stacks that people are using, how people are implementing things in different ways. And I just enjoy kind of digging into the different kinds of problems and figuring out the solution. So I like doing that. I did that for probably once a year for a couple of years, and then they've restructured how they do that. So I did was one this past February, and next year I'm going to be doing an evening one in the summer. I'm not really sure how that's going to go.
Okay.
And that one's going to be, they kind of merged the nonprofit and the business center, so that one's going to be open to a little bit more of a little bit of both. So it'll be interesting to see how that works.
Nice. What about you mentioned in our pre-chat before the show, like teaching through what I call simple rules or principles, because sometimes people have like all these different tools that do different things, and really they need to get some core foundational concepts. Can you tell
Right.
us like some of how you do that, and some examples of that where the tool
Sure.
doesn't really matter so much, and how you can specialize but you don't have to?
Right. So yeah, I mean, in the workshops and when I'm working with one-on-one with people, I spend a lot of time talking about like the basics, the best practices. So making sure you're on decent hosting, because that plays a lot into security and site speed and all kinds of other things. Making sure you have a backup plan right? Even if it means that every Friday morning, Fred's logging in and running a backup. Like if that's what the plan is and that's working for you, that's fine, but have a plan. We talk about basic security stuff, not using stupid easy passwords, just going over some of the basics from security standpoint, because there's a lot of those things too where somebody maybe set up the site 5 years ago, but security has changed in 5 years, and the tools available for backups have changed in 5 years. So what's current? We talk about what a staging site is and how you can create one and why you need one before you start doing major changes. We talk about child themes. It's kind of, and a lot of that it's introducing concepts to them that they may not be familiar with before that, but are really helpful just to the overall understanding of what they're doing. What the little update wheel means and why you should do updates, but do a backup first, which I say probably 20 times when I'm doing these workshops. And then, we'll go over some basics of maybe like, what is SEO? What is a call to action? Why do you want to have your register now maybe as a button instead of a link, or just kind of some basic things to help them be thinking in a different way about what they're doing on the websites to make it more user friendly, to make it work better for them.
Keep listening. This podcast is not over. This is just a special message about this episode's sponsor, WP Tonic Managed WordPress LMS Hosting. Think of it as everything you need to have a professional online course training platform right out of the box, ready to go. Find out more about WP Tonic's Managed WordPress LMS Hosting by going to lifterlikes.com/tonic. Now back to the show.
That's awesome. I have a question about the problem in our industry, which it's a big problem, which is that unfortunately a lot of people, like, they do some work or somebody helps build the WordPress website, and then it's called going dark, or they disappear, or they stop responding to emails. And in the worst scenarios, it actually happens like halfway through the project build and they just kind of disappear. I'm not sure I understand quite why or that problem's so bad, but I know when I did a lot of work with clients, a lot of times you're starting at a place of where you have to earn the trust because they had a bad experience with the last person they worked with. How do you, like, you obviously show up and you're willing to make a commitment if they're going to do a plan with you, but what would your advice be to WordPress professionals who maybe don't realize that that's a big differentiator in the space, and how can they make that relationship a huge success and avoid that? What causes people to disappear? I don't know if you have any theories on that or whatever, but
well, I mean, so I personally, I've had clients come to me from that. I used to have a web guy and I can't get a hold of him anymore and I need to update something, and so told me about you, or I found you online, or whatever. So yeah, I've had lots of people come to me, and I think in some of the cases, right, somebody's maybe freelancing to pay the bills for a while, and then they take a full-time job and they just let their freelancing site go away without telling people that they're going away, and it seems like they just disappear, right? And I mean, I get that from the financial motive of it, but if you had been working with people, I feel like it's nice to at least let them know, be like, hey, by the way, I'm doing this other thing now. Even if you're not referring them to somebody else, let them know that you're not going to be around anymore, so that they don't think it's disappeared and they're wondering what happened to you. I don't know. And I mean, I'm in a bunch of different Facebook groups related to, web design and entrepreneur and stuff. I kind of just try to figure out what people have questions about, help out where I can. One of the things I see a lot, though, is that there's a lot of web developer-y people that, like, oh, well, that one's not worth my time anymore. I got the big money out of them for the project, and so they just kind of ghost them. So whether or not they're still there, they just stop replying to the emails, which I think is a little bit shady, or a lot shady. At least let them know, or give them some excuse like I don't have time for it or whatever. Just don't disappear. But as far as how I go to help people to trust me after all of that, so as it says on my website, you were looking at my website earlier, I translate web problems into solutions. I've had a lot of people tell me that I'm really good at translating the techie speak into words that everybody else understands. I talk to them just the same way I'm talking to you. And the language that I use, I feel like conveys that I know the technical stuff without getting stuck in the land of jargon where they don't understand what I'm saying. So it tends to find a nice balance between making them feel comfortable in my skill without feeling like I'm talking down to them.
That's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. And I'm just looking
Is.
at your website now, and I love the, like, sort of your service feature boxes or whatever. It says, I needed, which best describes your need, or what you need help with. I need a new website. My website needs care. I want to add things to my site. I want to learn WordPress. These are all very conversational ways that clients talk. That's what they would say. They don't say, I need a PHP plugin, CSS, something. Like they're just like, I need some help. Right.
My hosting company said I need to update my PH what now? Like, yeah, I get, emails from random people too that are like, oh, Jane said I should email you. What does this mean?
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that because I feel like if I can be the approachable developer that they're talking to, I'm good with that.
Yeah, and also when there's a what's the word? Like an information advantage, or if you're the expert, the last thing people want to feel is like they can't communicate with you, or like you're talking down to them or something like that. It's just no way to do business. So it's just important to be sensitive, very sensitive to who you're talking to.
Right. Like when the mechanic starts saying, there's a harmonic synthesizer, what's its problem, right? Like, and my dad used to be a mechanic, so I'm familiar with a lot of the words, but even when they start talking to me and I'm like, wait, could you just explain what actually needs to happen? And I think a lot of people like to throw out the big words because they feel like it makes them sound more knowledgeable. But I feel like it also makes them sound less empathetic towards their customer, because if they don't understand, if they can't use the same words that their customer's using, the customer just doesn't relate to them as well.
Yeah, and it's like another tool for getting better at that is being problem focused and solution focused, not tool focused.
Right.
Like your language of like, I need a website, my website's broken or needs care or whatever. These are all just problem focused and solution oriented statements.
Right. And I mean, and I don't have one favorite theme or one favorite plugin, with the exception of Backup Buddy, that I use for everything. I've worked on a bunch of different themes. I've worked on a bunch of different form plugins. I've worked with a bunch of different page builders. If a customer comes to me and says, I need you to fix something on my site, and they're already using a specific thing, I'm not going to make them switch to something else just because that's what I'm more comfortable with. It's what's working for them. I'm not going to make them, redo everything just to make me feel more comfortable. I actually saw somebody, and they had somebody build their site. That person was no longer available for whatever reason. They started working with somebody new, and he installed a second page builder on their site because they didn't know the first one. So half of their pages were in one and half of their pages were in the other, and it took forever to load because now you have so many more resource files that are being loaded with everything because it's loading stuff for 2 page builders. And I'm like, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But it all came down to, I don't want to figure out how to do it with A, so we're just going to make everything in B, but push them both together.
Yeah,
I don't think that works.
Those are two very different mindsets. Like, are you trying to help the client? Or are you like an Elementor specialist or Divi specialist or Beaver Builder specialist? And really, if you just ask yourself what's in the best interest of the client, it's fine if you specialize and you're like, I'm an expert in these tools.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's fine. But if you're going to help a client, what's in their best interest? It's not to have 3 page builders going at once, because that maybe you shouldn't take that client if you want to draw that line in the sand, which you have every right to do.
Right.
I wanted to ask you, it sounds like you do you get local referrals and you do stuff in your community. What do you what's your split, or how do you approach doing work locally in your community versus like anybody who finds you on the internet? Like, how do you relate to that? Is there, or do you care? Are you trying to be a local shop? I remember meeting somebody when I lived in Montana, which I don't live there now, and they're like, I only do clients that are within this like region. And I was, at the time, I was doing clients all over the world. One's not
Right.
right or wrong, but how do you do it?
Just like I like to work with different people and different systems and stuff like that, I don't really have a preference. I do like working with local people because it's fun to be able to, like, we have some of the same reference points. I know that a lot of people from a customer perspective like to find somebody that is local to them because they feel more comfortable with it. If there is, the potential someday, if we really had to, we could meet at a coffee shop, right? Like they just feel like that proximity makes them feel more comfortable with me. So I do have my location, my city, in some of my SEO because I want people to know that where I'm at. But I've also worked with people literally all around the world. I picked up a customer a couple of years ago because he was looking at one of my YouTube videos on how to clone your site. And he messaged me and he's like, right, I don't want to do that. Can I just hire you? And he was somewhere in South America. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
As long as you can pay me in US dollars, because the whole conversion thing with the bank, like that's a pain in the butt. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a preference as to where people are, as long as we can work together. And I think that's the thing that's important for a lot of things too, is that people have different personalities, people have different work styles. The way I talk to people, I find that it tends to put my clients at ease. But some people maybe really want the person who's going to use all the tech speak because they're more comfortable with that. And okay, that's not me, and you're welcome to go work with them, and whatever. I don't have a preference. I just want us to be able to get along well with each other. If you're not going to respect the way I run my business or the way I run my life, and if I can't respect the way you run your business, that's not going to work out. So I'm just flexible.
That's awesome. And I also just wanted to pull out something you said that just in case anybody missed it, which is that you made some YouTube videos about how to do something. That is exactly how I started as a WordPress freelancer.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole WordPress journey started just by putting videos on YouTube about how to do stuff with WordPress. Next thing you know, I've got clients and they're coming in through my videos. So even if you're not a website builder, if you're a course creator, an expert, the power of YouTube to connect people is really amazing. And also, in case you didn't know, on a YouTube, first of all, if you're using YouTube for that purpose, you should put a link to your website or how to contact you in the description of the video. But also, most YouTubers, if you go to their About tab and on their YouTube channel, you like confirm that you're not a bot, and then it will show you their email address. So like you can connect. YouTube is really powerful for connecting people at scale. And I think for WordPress, it's amazing. I mean, I don't know how many videos about WordPress are on YouTube.
Well,
And it's a never-ending opportunity because
absolutely. And just because there's already a million videos on the topic that you want to make a video on does not mean you shouldn't, because somebody's going to connect with the way you say it. Totally just lost my train of thought.
Well, another tip too is if you're like somebody's already done the Backup Buddy YouTube video or whatever. Mm-hmm. First of all, there's only one you. Second of all, if you want to make it like how do you stand out, put the year on the, in the title. There you go.
Yeah.
This technology is always changing.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. And some people do like learning in different ways, right? Like I actually prefer to read a blog post instead of watching a video. But some people really want to be able to watch the video, or they have it playing on their phone or on another screen while they're working on stuff so that they can see the two happening. So, some people are great at writing stuff. Some people are great at making videos. But it takes all different kinds of people, and you're going to connect with somebody that really likes the way you do it.
Totally. I wanted to ask you about can you just take people to school on how WordPress meetups, what they are and what WordCamps are and how that works? Because I think some people listening to this or watching this on YouTube may not be aware of this community that exists probably in
Right.
their area.
So meetups are local groups of WordPress users, developers, fans, that get together, we'll say periodically. Some places, some meetups are more active than others. Here in Pittsburgh, we typically do like one meetup a month. It's kind of in the center of the city. And then I was running another meetup that usually tried to meet in the northern part of the city because, we have a lot of bridges and tunnels and people don't want to cross rivers, and I don't understand, but whatever. So we tried to do in two different locations, right? Because Pittsburgh's a big city. And what I was finding was there was a lot of people that really couldn't make it to the second location, but there was a lot of interest in doing them online. So we've been doing some online meetups that are still, our Pittsburgh meetup, and we still have people from Pittsburgh, but then we also then have people coming from outside of Pittsburgh, which is kind of cool. So we had Michelle Frechette from New York was talking about 404 pages, right? So she's in New York. She's not going to drive all the way to Pittsburgh to share her information with our meetup. But we were able to get her on Zoom, and it's just a way to kind of share what you know or get help with a problem that you have. That's generally a common suggestion in, if people are new to WordPress, don't have a whole lot of budget maybe to hire somebody, go check out a meetup and see. There's probably one in a city near you, and you can get information on it. The way we run our meetups is we try to have a topic each month so that we're talking about something specific. But sometimes we also do, happiness bar style meetups where it's basically just come and bring your question and we'll see if we can answer it. So we get everybody from people that just heard about WordPress last week to, developers to representatives of plugin companies and, a little bit of everything. So you get a good mix. There's just a bunch of different personalities. I really like the meetups. And then WordCamps are basically localized conferences related to all things WordPress. And it covers literally all things WordPress. It covers blogging, it covers development, it covers using it. We've had people come and talk about accessibility. We've had people talk about SEO. I mean, any topic vaguely related to websites with WordPress, right? You might find there. The first year we had a WordCamp in Pittsburgh, one of the speakers was an intellectual property attorney talking about, digital rights and why you can't just grab an image off of a Google image search and stick it on your blog post. So WordCamps happen in different cities, literally all around the world. Again, if you're new to this concept, go to wordcamp.org and find one that's happening close to you. There can be one day, sometimes there are 2 days, sometimes there's one track, sometimes there's multi-tracks. Everyone's a little bit different. But from where I'm at in Pittsburgh, there's probably 5 or 6 within a 1 day's driving distance from here. So if I really wanted to talk to a whole bunch of WordPress people, I have my opportunities to do that.
That is awesome. I was just pulling it up on meetup.com. It looks like there's 1,621 WordPress meetups out there. So yep. They're everywhere. I mean, and those
are only the official WordPress meetups that are officially sanctioned by WordPress. There's a bunch of other ones. Like we had one popped up in Pittsburgh that only lasted like a year or so. That was like WordPress and other stuff, right? Oh. That wasn't the officially sanctioned one, but sometimes there's related ones as well.
Yeah, and that's like for some people, like we were discussing the difference between working with a web person locally versus just working with somebody somewhere else in the world. Both options are possible, but it's for a lot of people, they like to know that they can meet their tech person, they can run into them at a WordPress event, and they're also in the same time zone. So when they communicate,
yes,
I've had clients in Australia, and it's painful, like, because I'm often doing a meeting at 7 o'clock at night. They're getting up early,
Right.
but it's yeah. So there's a lot to be said for getting outside of the building and connecting with your WordPress community.
Absolutely.
So, Terri Tutich from BeyondTheOffice.com. Go check out this site, and check out her guide on website ownership, really focused on what to do, after the launch. And just, if you're looking for a WordPress person, check her out. And if you are a WordPress person, check out what she's doing. I think you're doing a lot of amazing things here, right? And inspiring the community for people to empathize more with the customer, create an offer that really surrounds the customer. It's more focused on them than it is on you. And then your communication style is awesome in a way that attracts people and isn't intimidating and easy for a prospective customer to understand. Terri, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Is there any final words you have for the people?
Back up your website. If you don't know when the last time you backed it up was, go do that now. Yeah.
And that's a wrap for this episode of LMScast. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I hope you enjoyed the show. This show was brought to you by LifterLMS, the #1 tool for creating, selling, and protecting engaging online courses to help you get more revenue, freedom, and impact in your life. Head on over to LifterLMS.com and get the best gear for your course creator journey. Let's build the most engaging, results-getting courses on the internet.